right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Alexander Howell YouTube channel. We're obviously streaming today, so this is going to be kind of like the last time we did this. A little bit of back and forth with all of you in chat and everything else, and then for the most part, the goal here is going to be, I thought about it, kind of another subject to go over, and that was because I've had a lot of conversations and talked to a lot of you about just, and this has normally been in private. I don't think there have been too many comments on the YouTube channel, but a couple of you have kind of asked my opinion about the Maya train, and the truth of the matter is that I just wasn't that educated, or I'm not that educated in it, so I thought that today might be a good time to open this up, go through a few articles that I found that I thought were interesting, and just really kind of play along with coming at this, and this is going to sound bad, but I hope you understand what I mean, coming at this as maybe I'm a little ignorant, or somebody that's watching this might be ignorant of the situation. The backstory is this. So the Maya train is an idea that was first announced in 2018, and the premise of it is that, and actually I'll just look at it the way that they say it, because this article from the Cancun Sun is the one that we're going to talk about first, but it's an extensive railway project that was first announced in 2018 with the premise of providing widespread network of transportation across the Yucatan Peninsula to connect sightseers to popular destinations. Now, it sounds wonderful, and it goes through Chiapas and to Tabasco, but the main flux of it, the main areas that this covers are the states of Campeche, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo, and it goes to a lot of different places that are, you know, obviously there are a lot of places that are for tourists, but it also goes through a lot of places that go close to some of the more traditional tourist areas like Chichen Itza and the ruins, the Mayan ruins and stuff. So the idea seems positive. Now, the negative that we found, and I'm going to log on to YouTube real quick just to make sure that you guys can hear me, because we had a little bit of an issue with that the first time, but the unfortunate side of this is that there is a lot of concern about the environment, and I think that's absolutely fantastic that people are looking into that they're pushing back on it a bit, and they're making sure that if there is environmental impact, we need to figure out a way to either correct that or not do this. And it has already started, so we're gonna work on this. We're gonna try to figure it all out, but let me log in, make sure that you guys are good to go here. Sounds like you are. Sounds like even the background music is playing, so that's fantastic. But I'm just going to leave that up here with no sound. YouTube is telling me that the stream status is poor, but everything that I'm pulling up is good. Let me know in the comments if it's not looking that great. I think it just doesn't like the fact that I'm streaming in a higher quality stream. But let me do a couple of things here real quick. So that's kind of the main idea, is that we're looking at a situation where the Yucatan, or the Maya train, seems like a wonderful idea. It gets people a really good way to get into certain tourist areas, a nice way to kind of get around certain areas. Like you can go from Merida to Izamal to Chichen Itza to Valladolid to Nueva Vizcaya, and then to Cancun, and then you can go all the way down the coast to Tulum, and then it kind of pulls into the state of Quintana Roo. So we're looking at a thing that seems to be very positive. Let's find out what some of the biggest issues are. So again, give me 1 second here. I'm just going to mess with, just 1 second. I can't right now during stream. So I think we're looking good. Everything I'm showing on my side is fantastic. So we're just going to push ahead. All right. And then as I switch here, just so I can avoid the last time, I'm going to go here. And that's my screen. And I'm just going to open it up so that we cover the entire area. Now, I've got chat open here. I want to check out this again. Yep, we're good to go. So, all right, let's keep this going. And if you guys do have a comment, I have it going on my phone so I can read all of your comments if you have them. Also, if you're watching this video on the redo, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel, or just like the video. It helps to get it out to more viewers of this channel and everybody else that kind of is concerned about things like this. So let's go back up to the top, and I'm going to read some of this for those of you who are watching this more on audio. But this is an article by the Cancun Sun, Aisha Ali, Maya Train, everything travelers need to know. So you can find it at thecancunsun.com. But the Maya train is Tren Maya in Spanish, and it's a tourist train that's going to go to popular sites like we just talked about. Now, once completed, the high-speed train system will link famous beaches of the Riviera Maya to Mayan ruin sites, culturally rich towns, if I can talk, and various tourist destinations in the Yucatan Peninsula and beyond. So this is going to go, again, we talked about it, Chiapas and Tabasco, but the main area is going to be Yucatan Peninsula, which is generally regarded as Campeche, the state of Yucatan, and Quintana Roo. So again, this article, you can probably see it on screen, but it's got the URL there. I won't read it out. I might link to it once this video ends so that we can kind of talk about it. But you can kind of see that this is a breakdown of where they're going to be. Obviously, a picture of sitting atop a Mayan ruin. Now, the project is estimated at a cost of about $7.4 billion and the timeline of 4 years to build, which seems tough, to be honest. And it says that it's already exceeded the estimated budget. It received widespread support as a stimulus to local economies, and obviously the entire goal was to create tourism infrastructure, which I think it will achieve that. It also says that this project was estimated to create 80,000 jobs in 2020 with an additional 150,000 jobs in 2021. The biggest concern here, and let me kind of drag down this. I'm not going to we'll talk a little bit about the sites, but that's not really the concern here. Let's go to this new one, and this is at thenation.com. Environmental activism, and this was written by Megan Beatley and Sam Edwards. Is Mexico's Mayan train a boondoggle? I think we all know what a boondoggle is, so I'm just going to continue on. But shortly after he was sworn in as Mexico's new president in late 2018, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, or AMLO as he's known, he wants to create a running train, the Mayan train running 900 miles through the Yucatan, going through the different places of indigenous history and cultural places to tourists. Again, this goes through the idea that the goal of this actually seems like it could be a positive. The idea that you create something for tourism infrastructure, and for the most part, tourism is a huge deal for the Yucatan Peninsula. Obviously, for most Americans, Cancun is going to be the place that you think of first, but once you've been there, you think about Riviera Maya, Puerto Morales, Isla Mujeres, Tulum, Playa del Carmen, Cozumel, those kind of places. On the other side, not included in this would be places like Puerto Vallarta, and if you look at it like we did when we found Merida, Mexico, where we actually ended up purchasing a house, it seems like a fantastic idea, because if you're in Merida or you're in Cancun and you want to go see, you know, the if I can talk, the ruins in Chichen Itza, this is going to be a fantastic opportunity and a really easy thing to just hop on and go. Now, we're going to talk about the negatives too, but I do want to reiterate that the idea behind this, and that's something that we always have to think about just in general, but the idea behind this is positive. We're going to create something that connects all of our major tourist areas to increase tourist economy, and there's going to be no negative side consequences, if I can again talk, but no negative consequences. Again, geez. Unfortunately, anytime that you're plowing through land, there are always going to be consequences. Now, one thing that I've seen talked about in recent articles, I believe from the Yucatan Times. Let me make sure that I have that right real quick. Yucatan Magazine Online. I think it's the Yucatan Times. It's Yucatan Times or Yucatan Magazine. One of these articles in here. The Yucatan Times, I think, is where I've seen it, this one. So the YucatanTimes.com. And one of the issues that I've seen is that there is a lot of deforestation going on, and where what they're trying to do with that is a lot of factory farming or something of that nature. And the article that I read was that they were, and maybe it's this one, but most of the articles that I was reading basically said that, no, it's not this one. They are opening this to factory farming pigs, and what they are really worried about is, with the aquifer in Mexico already kind of traditionally having some issues, as most people know about, but already kind of traditionally having issues. One of the things that they're worried about is that the waste from those pigs and from just the general deforestation and everything that goes along with that it's going to seep into the aquifer and actually make the water even worse. So these tourist areas that they're looking to invest in, just by virtue of that one thing, they're going to run into significant problems on a pretty consistent basis just with making sure that the water that they pull up is clean. And then if it's not, what do you do and what do you invest in? Now, on top of that, we have, let me see here. I thought I had one of the articles. Oh, here we go. So let's get into this real quick here, too. So in this article from thenation.com, many indigenous groups and their conservationists and academic allies call the Tren an act of war and kind of a mockery. It talks about the devastation to Mexico's ecosystem, which again, part of deforestation is going to be that you're going to have flora and fauna issues when you put a train or tracks or anything man-made in the center of a jungle. So it says that the projects will repeat the mistakes of development in Cancun and Tulum and bring cartel violence, corruption, and mass development to the Mayan forests. I can't really disagree. When you start clearing things, when you start asking for government contracts, you're going to have things that go to the highest bidder, and you're going to at times introduce some pretty negative consequences that come along with trying to get government contracts. I mean, one of the things in Kansas City that we're very well known for is, and this, not that I'm trying to draw apples to apples here, this might be apples to oranges, but government contracts are known as kind of a way for corruption to sneak in. And in Kansas City in the early 1900s, we had boss Tom Pendergast, who got every single concrete contract that Kansas City offered because he was the political boss here. When you have areas for corruption to start, they're going to possibly start. So it's something to keep in mind. Obviously, this is unfortunately kind of a systemic issue everywhere, but Mexico is known for it pretty well, pretty much there. But it's one of the things that you kind of run into when you have these big government projects. What are you going to do? So I'm going to keep on going here. Let's see. So they have just this little bit here that says, consistently among the top 10 most visited countries in the world, Mexico has enjoyed a significant tourism industry since at least the middle of the last century. The focus on mass tourism and resorts, masterminded by the National Institute for Tourism Promotion, the entity responsible for the Mayan Train, would at first glance appear to have paid off. Tourism has created more than 2 million jobs, and the sector accounts for close to 9% of the national GDP, which is not insignificant when you're talking about a near plurality of your GDP. It's something to think about. And you're growing faster than the economy as a whole in 2018, according to official data. But the development of, and I'm not trying to read this because I don't think you guys can read, but I know I'm going through it pretty quick. But it says, but the development of much of the Yucatan Peninsula's east coast, beginning in Cancun, with soon spreading to Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and beyond, has brought a raft of environmental problems. Rapid population growth, always huge, especially if your infrastructure is not built out properly. I just lost my place completely. Led to destruction of mangroves, massive sand erosion. We can talk about that when it comes to the Progreso Pier and the sand erosion that has caused, and some of the issues that it's having in Chalem and Chuberna and the areas on the west side of that 4-mile pier. You talk about sand erosion. It's a great thing for the economy to bring in tourists on the Progreso Pier, switching for a second. But when you look at the west side, what they're having to do to keep sand erosion from literally just taking away all of the sand from those homes is a little bit terrifying, and it's something to definitely think about. And obviously they have here an intractable sewage processing problem, which currently means most wastewater is dumped directly into the sea. In parts of the Yucatan Peninsula, only 2 to 5% of sewage is treated, according to Greenpeace. So pollution problem is obviously a big deal whenever you try to get more people into a place. If you don't properly plan for it and you simply build the thing that you think that they want or that might bring a positive to your economy, and you don't think about the back end, it's a really difficult thing. So if all of a sudden you do have increased tourism to Chichen Itza, increased tourism to Tulum, even increased tourism to Merida or Cancun, places that are traditionally pretty well stocked with tourists. If you make it even easier to access those points, what are you going to do with the increased population that occurs? And I think that the biggest issue that they have here is that I assume that some of the government officials are probably going to come out and say, well, we obviously thought about that. Here's, sections A through Z on what we're going to do. What this article is trying to point out is that they've heard it all before and they don't think it's going to happen. And already, when you've said that you want to build this huge train that is going to be great for tourism, but it's already significantly exceeding the budget expectations. And my guess is also the timeline expectations if they expected it to be done in 4 years, which I need to watch the entirety of that. But and get every bit that I can about that, because saying that it's going to be done in 4 years is, well, it's, unless you're China to make cities in a day, then I think that that's difficult. But when you look at this overall, from what I can see on each side, and this is probably the most elementary view of everything that's going on, is that the problem on the side of those going against the Maya train is that it doesn't seem well thought out, or not as well thought out as it could have been. It doesn't seem as well researched as it could have been. You might be able to show chart after chart, but at the end of the day, if you can't defend your position and you see things happening time after time after time that go against the people and the region, that's not great. But then when you also have, like this article pointed out, again from thenation.com, when you also have the idea that you have seen this in the past and you have noticed the result, it already doesn't put you in confidence. It doesn't give you a lot of confidence that moving forward, the state is going to do right by the environment, by the indigenous peoples, and honestly, by the people that are just living in the region in general, whether that be people that have been there for generations and generations, or even somebody that's an expat that moved there 10 years ago with the thought that this is going to be fine, and now they have to worry about another environmental concern. And then when you take that, add it to some of the environmental concerns that they have with the deforestation that's going on, which I believe there was another recent article, and I'll try to find it and push it below when this goes live as a video and not as a stream. There was another article posted that basically said that they were, oh, what was it? I'll find it. I don't want to state it and then be wrong about it, but I'll definitely find it and put it in the description below when this thing goes live as a video. But when you have been failed and failed and failed and failed, and then something is promised to you, it's not great. You know, it's kind of like the parent that never shows up for the baseball game and they tell the kid the day before that they're going to be there. The kid has no expectation that it's actually going to happen. That seems to be a significant part of the concern here, on top of environmental impacts when it comes to deforestation, on top of Yucatan, Campeche, and Quintana Roo being, you know, near the bottom of environmental factors. So when you take that and you say, here are all of my concerns, can you at least show me that you're going to stay on time, on budget, and then that doesn't happen, then the state looks like the parent that didn't go to the baseball game. So we'll keep reading through these a little bit. I want to continue to research this and gain knowledge on it. If you guys have any comments or questions about it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, whether you're in live chat right now or whether you are watching this in the future and just have a thought. I'm happy to answer it. And again, like I said at the very beginning of this video, and it might be tough for people in the stream to see this, I come at this from a pure point of ignorance. When I hear Maya train, tourist, and all that kind of thing, it always sounds like a positive. But obviously, it's not always a positive. There are definitely some negatives. Oh, I've got somebody calling me that I don't need to talk to. So I'm going to switch real quick here back to our stream. I just want to check on a couple of things, make sure that we're all good to go. And again, if you guys don't mind, if you're still in the chat, dropping a like on this, I'd appreciate it. But okay, so let me find a couple of things here as I talk or you guys comment. Oh, Leo, what's going on, man? I've been in Cancun for 3 months and I'm surprised. Never seen recycle bins, trash everywhere and on the beaches. I think the locals aren't educated and the government doesn't care. You know, that's probably true. I don't doubt it in any way, shape, or form what you've said, because when we were driving in some of the areas, it was the same thing. There were times where you'd go to, like, let's say Progreso Beach, or you'd go to kind of the main part of Merida, and you'd see all kinds of, you know, people taking care of it. This, you know, everybody on the work for the government seemed to be doing a pretty good job of it. Trash cans everywhere in Progreso. Everybody seemed to have the idea that they were trying to take care of their area. But yeah, we would also go to certain areas, especially it seemed like further inland, and you would just see kind of the areas where the locals put trash out. You know, it wasn't their fault. They didn't have the service to provide it, and they probably, you know, didn't have the infrastructure to make sure that they could provide it for themselves. And you have to kind of go through that and go, what's the big, you know, what can you do? What opportunities are there? But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. If that is the case, then your locals aren't educated, and government needs to probably step in. And then you kind of go into the even weirder conversation. You take a step back and say, all right, well, if that's the case, why are we spending money on this thing as opposed to these first things? Like, feels like we need to start here and then we'll move up to this. And I think while that makes a lot of sense as an argument, I think the other side would be like, but if we get this thing, then it'll bring more tourism, we'll have more tourism dollars to spend, and then we'll take care of that. It never seems to work out on either side. I think both sides have an argument there. I think it's positive when money comes into an area. I think it's a positive thing when you have yet another thing to tell people this is a reason to come into our country. But you have to also honor, and again, this goes back to what we were saying, you also have to honor what you think, or you have to honor the idea of the agreement and say, if you do that, you're going to take care of things. In the past, they have not. So it's no wonder that people question it. And it's probably no wonder that there are some people who just throw their hands up in the air and they're like, well, if it's not getting taken care of, then I guess it's not getting taken care of. So I go back and forth on it a lot. I mean, you know, this happens everywhere. This isn't just, you know, the Yucatan area. This isn't just Mexico. This happens in the U.S. all the time. It happens in Canada all the time. This happens all over the world. It is the ultimate, you know, government versus people, and government thinks positive for people, people think negative for government, and vice versa. And it's all positive and fun and games. But in this situation, it, at least to me, again, feels like the entire issue, the biggest reason that people are worried about this train isn't that they don't think that it's good for tourism. I think almost everybody on every side would say, this seems like it's a positive thing for tourism. I think it's that the history of the area shows that when you put tourism first and you don't think about what that could bring to the area in terms of trash, in terms of wastewater, in terms of needing good fresh water, in terms of infrastructure, pipes, you know, everything from what's below ground and pipes and and natural gas mains and things like that, to everything that's above ground. And how is that going to affect all the local ecosystems? How's that going to affect the sand on the beach because the mangroves aren't there anymore? When you get into all of those different arguments, when you get into all of those different little bitty things that seem little and minute, and then you don't follow through on fixing them, as really in government the only entity that can, people lose faith that something like this, which seems so positive, could actually end up being positive. So, man, I didn't really mean to go negative with this live stream, but it kind of did. I mean, and look, like I say, I will fully 100% admit that when I saw this, when we were looking at our properties in Merida and we saw that the Maya train was a thing, I got excited. Because what that meant was, like, me and my family could literally take a train from Merida, Mexico, go to Chichen Itza, and then make our way over to Cancun, stay there a couple of nights, come all the way back, or stay in Cancun for a night, you know, take the train down to Tulum, go back to Playa del Carmen, and then take the train all the way back. I think it's a wonderful potential idea. But, especially with other deforestation efforts going on in order to bring in what appear to be factory farms, I think the biggest thing that we have to look at is, if we're doing this, how do you hold anybody accountable? And as an expat, as somebody who's not a citizen, I've got no right to be a part of the protest. I can only say my 2 cents. Just like I would say something about anything going on in Germany or something going on in Japan, I can only put in my 2 cents based on, you know, the small amount that I've researched today and that I've heard about in the past. I am not living there currently. I am not a native from this area. I'm only making this video to bring a little bit of light to kind of the situation. And yeah, it's more complex than I think most people would ever give it credit for. I'm going to real quick, just because I'm curious here, I am real quick going to switch us over to probably something that a lot of people don't respect, but I think is kind of a positive to see every once in a while. Let me check a couple of things, and then and then I'm going to go, Okay, I'm gonna go right here to make sure it transitions just fine. Wikipedia, everybody's favorite thing to make fun of because it doesn't always give you the right information, but every once in a while it does. But again, you kind of see over on this side the Mayan train, the overview, Tren Maya locale, like we talked about. Chiapas, Tabasco, Campeche, Yucatan, Quintana Roo. It's going to have 15 stations, several terminals. Oh, I didn't see that one of the terminals was not in Merida. How unfortunate. It's just a regular stop. But let's see. Let's see if we can find anything else. Oh, December 2019 consultation. So I don't think we went over this. So let's read this thing. And I'm just going to read it for anybody that's listening to this mainly for audio as opposed to those of you who are looking at my face and wondering why I'm talking about all this. But on November 15th, 2019, President AMLO declared that a referendum on the Mayan train would be held on December 15th, 2019 in Chiapas, Tabasco, Campeche, Yucatan, and Quintana Roo. The weekend, December 15th through the 16th, 2019, 92.3% of the people who participated in the consultation voted in favor. Ooh, that's interesting. While 7.4% voted against the proposal. 100,940 people voted, so a significant percentage of people voted in favor during the 2019 consultation. Let's see. But that was only 2.36% of the over 3.5 million registered voters in the 84 municipalities affected, which is a really, really small percentage of people to be voting. For the U.S., what I think about that as is in and around the amount of people that vote in a local school board election. 2.5% if you're lucky. Anything less than that, you just expect. So for something that this big is very interesting. And if anybody's on here and wants to explain anything about this, just type it in the comments below. Or again, if you're watching this not when it's not a live stream, when it's an actual video on the channel, please feel free to do that. And also, always comment, but feel free to like too. That helps this video get a little bit more traction. So here we go. Let's talk about this. And again, this is Wikipedia. I'm not saying that this is any great encyclopedia of knowledge. I'm saying that this is an area where you can go to just get a little bit more information. But opposition. So, and again, I'm only reading this for the people that are listening to this mainly as audio. Whoa, Jaguar, neat. All the things that happen on stream. So environmental and indigenous rights activists objected to construction of new tracks through the jungle, which is understandable. On the 26th anniversary of its armed uprising, January 1st, 2020, and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Zapatista Army of National Liberation expressed its opposition to the project and declared that the consultation provided only positive information to voters prior to voting. So basically, there were not two sides. The people that voted in favor like crazy said, that's fantastic, but they never saw a negative side either, which is an understandable argument, but at that same time, maybe other people should have stepped up if they thought that that was necessary. Again, guy from America talking about this, I'm just trying to inform. So, groups close to the National Indigenous Congress, or the CNI, plan to seek injunctions against the train project and other mega projects in the region. The CNI is looking at a three-pronged action: social awareness campaigns, media campaigns, and legal actions. On January 28th, 2020, a judge in Campeche issued a temporary injunction against construction of the railway because it was approved. This is the best thing about Wikipedia, or the spelling mistakes, but because it was approved in a simulated consultation. Well, yeah, okay. In a visit to the city of Campeche, President AMLO, I'm just calling him AMLO because I know that that's kind of the moniker he goes with, but defended the train and pointed out that not only had the train received its greatest support in the state of Campeche, but also that more than half the route would run through the state, worth 60 billion pesos of the 130 billion the government plans to invest in total. Yeah, this is one of those things that once it gets political like this, I try to take a step back because I feel like I see positives and negatives on all sides here. Let's just break down the last bit here because I've got to get off here in about 8 minutes. So if you guys have any questions about this, please feel free to comment them down below. I still have my phone out so I can see when you guys posted like Leo did. Or once it goes to video, obviously feel free to comment there as well. last section here is environmental concerns. As of January 2021, pretty recent as a recording of this video, crews had uncovered more than 8,000 ancient artifacts and structures during construction. The National Alliance for Conservation of the jaguar has identified 12 wildlife corridors that could be constructed to mitigate the situation for the jaguars that live in the area. Original plans called for electric locomotives on the trains. In June 2020, the government announced a switch to diesel to keep costs down. Then, in August 2020, they announced that half the route from Merida to Chetumal via Cancun would be electrified. That's going to be interesting. Because if they said that all of a sudden they're going from electric to diesel and you're running through the forest and you've got a lot of fumes and everything else, that's probably another thing that they need to raise concerns about. So here's the deal. Here's where we're all kind of, I guess, sum up. In at least my opinion, I think that this train has the potential to be a really positive thing for tourism. However, it seems like it was done very quickly and without taking a lot of things into consideration, which not only is a tough leap for some because they're not going to be able to, because they've had this happen in the past, but it's going to be tough, especially for indigenous peoples, to know that trains are running through these areas. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think that this has the potential to work out very, very well for the Yucatan Peninsula. I think it's going to I think it's going to connect a lot of different areas, but at the same time, it seems like just like most government projects, it would have benefited a lot from a little bit more knowledge and slowing down so that we could make it work. So that's what I think. Again, if you guys have a couple of minutes, comment down below. When this becomes a video, which should be about 5 to 10 minutes after this live stream, please feel free to comment down below. Let me know your thoughts and tell me where I'm wrong. I'm happy to know that. But for those of you who don't know me on stream, my name is Alexander Howell. Feel free to visit me, alexanderhowell.com. Follow me at Alexander from KC. You can also become a member of the channel. You'll notice that on the main page of the channel, there's a little button that says join. Feel free to do that. It just helps the channel out, kind of helps me make sure that all of these are in tip-top shape and that I keep giving you as positive comment and as good a comment as I possibly can. So hit join if you like. Outside of that, guys, thanks so much for watching the live stream. I always appreciate talking to you, and hopefully this was good. Have a great day. Peace.